Welcome back to SuperWest on Sundays, everybody. Unfortunately, we will be without our third Stephen Villardo, but I'm joined as always with our assistant editor, Dane Miller. My name is Nick Bartlett. I'm a senior writer here at SuperWest Sports. Obviously, Dane's with SuperWest Sports as well. And the two of us this week will make up SuperWest on Sundays. So, Dane, you just want to say a quick hello?
Oh yeah, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, tip top of the morning, everybody. One of the craziest weeks, honestly, I can remember in recent history in college football. Yeah, and I don't even got anything like jokes or anything. Let's just get straight to the action. So, the first game I want to talk about, obviously, probably the biggest game on the slate, is going to be USC versus Michigan. And I think this was a tale of two halves. In the first half, the Trojans, no other way to really say it, Michigan completely bullied them on the line. They Big Ten balled them. They ran the ball at will and really looked like they were going to crush SC's spirit in the first half, barring that nice drive to kind of make things reasonable heading into halftime. Second half, back and forth affair. Miller Moss, win or lose this game, is he's official. He's real. You don't go into bat, even though it's a neutral site. You don't play LSU. You don't go into the big house and put up numbers like this, performances like this, and don't get the recognition. He's a real one. Just want to say that. Played well, 28 for 51, 283 yards, three touchdowns, one interception, one pick six. The pick six was to first team all Big Ten guys, so probably a future NFLer. So no shame there. Everyone makes a mistake. The big thing is that he bounced back. And if you're just looking at this game again, it went back and forth in the second half. Both teams fought. Obviously, coming down to that fourth and goal, where Michigan was able to punch it into the end zone. But really, I think USC should still be proud of themselves. The way they played, the style of team they played, it's unlikely you see another team quite as physical as Michigan the rest of the way. Obviously, there's going to be other really, really talented teams, but in terms of pure physicality, the Wolverines have that on lock. And yeah, one other thing I wanted to take away or make sure to say is JoJo Marks was absolutely phenomenal at running back. 13 carries, 100 yards. But if anyone saw the play, I think it was like an interception or a fumble, where essentially one of Michigan's offensive linemen was running down the field after a turnover. JoJo Marks, a halfback, comes up and rips the ball out of his arms and gets the ball back for the Trojans. Whatever Lincoln Riley is speaking to them. It's working. I mean, they're fired up, they're ready to go, and that is a team that is giving their all. Again, a running back ripping the ball out of the hands of offensive linemen on some sort of turnover return. Good stuff all around. And at receiver for the Trojans, Zachariah Branch had a solid day. Six receptions, 98 yards. They obviously have other options, but a big day for him in the big house. So just quickly to wrap it up, because that was a lot. This was a really, really phenomenal game, important game for the college football playoff implications. Just want to say again, Miller Moss is for real, even in a loss. It came down to a fourth and goal in front of 100,000 people, and he almost took his team to victory. So he's ready to go the rest of the way. JoJo Marks is looking like a true dual threat halfback for the Trojans. And again, obviously that one play where he ripped the ball to the offensive lineman. Not going to happen every time, but for consistency purposes, truly dominant in terms of his dual threat ability. And then Zachariah Branch would be a nice, pretty complimentary receiver, if not the number one guy going forward. So USC should be all right, even in a tough loss. Never been a huge USC fan, never been like a USC hater, just kind of neutral on them. But this is the best I've personally seen them look in quite a while, and that includes with Caleb Williams. So, Dane, you got any thoughts on this game, or you want to move on to the next one here?
I mean, USC didn't get the job done. We can say anything we want about the game, but they lost, and so yeah, I just that was a game that I was expecting the Trojans to win, and they didn't. So I think there's going to be some reevaluation required for the Trojans. I know it's a tough road environment, but you're expected to win and you didn't. So there's going to be whatever consequences come from that will come from that.
And Dane's probably giving you the realist take. I know that's how every Trojan fan feels. For me, I certainly got the BYU game wrong, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But I actually picked Michigan just because they're dominant defensive line. You got Mason Graham out there, and again, they have another All Big Ten superstar on their line, and I just thought that would be hard to block, and it kind of showed itself a little bit in the first half. But bottom line, they did lose, and going forward, it's gonna be a bounce back. They have to keep their rhythm, but a loss is a loss. A little bit different from the classic quote. Moving to the next game here, we got. Oh well, I didn't plan this that well, but we have a BYU-Kansas State, so we did have a little bit of a smooth transition. You want to start with this one, Dane?
Yeah, BYU just crushed them. Really surprising how well they played. I thought the home field advantage was elite and really is a good sign of things to come. Lavelle Edwards Stadium for BYU in their second year in the Big 12. I think they've clearly taken a step forward. I think Kalani Sitake has the program in a really good spot. They're 4-0. They just beat a ranked Kansas State team. I mean, the momentum is extremely high in BYU right now. I think the Big 12 is pretty wide open, and certainly Utah, Iowa State, and BYU seem to be the top teams right now. And so a victory like that is just, it changes the whole dynamic of the season. We'll talk about what happened in Stillwater later in the show. But man, BYU beating Kansas State 38-9 is just a complete surprise. There was just a moment at the end of the first half where it was 6-0. BYU was losing, and then crazy things happen, and all of a sudden, like 8 minutes of gameplay later, they've got 31 points. So it was just a flurry, and it happened. Some turnovers, and I think there was a scoop and score or a pick six or some craziness happened, and it just, the game flipped in an instant. And Avery Johnson for Kansas State really could never get going. I don't think they didn't score an offensive touchdown. They just got field goals all game. So it was a disaster for Kansas State and a huge win for BYU.
Yeah, and I think the first thing I want to touch on here, because I see a lot of environments, including my alma mater, and I'll probably touch on this later, who shout out, their school name, their blah blah blah. We are so prideful. BYU fans back that up every week. Every week they show up. They're literally one of the loudest fan bases in the West. They played a factor. So many false starts in that game. I mean, BYU is going to whoop their butt either way, but just that base should look. You can call them a little different because their school obviously has certain affiliations. Call them what they want. Those are better fans than most fan bases in the West, and it's really not even close. You could throw Oregon up there. You could throw Oregon State does a good job of a little more small town environment. Obviously, the Huskies have a phenomenal fan base. Utah, those are the ones that instantly come to mind off the top of my head. But BYU is right there with them, if not better, and their fans deserve that respect. That place is always rocking. In regards to the actual game, I mean, as Dane touched on me, it was a massacre. I think the one thing I can say is, looking forward, BYU's defense is absolutely for real. They did this to SMU. They did this to Kansas State. And if you're not coming in there with a complete offense, I'm talking offense that can throw and run the ball, they're going to expose you. K-State came in with one of the best rushing attacks in the country. Avery Johnson and Giddens are really tough to stop in the backfield, but they had no passing threat. And BYU just feasted and feasted and feasted, and so many tackles for loss. I'm curious to see how good this defense will be going forward. Obviously, they got to keep backing it up. But two performances like this, one on the road, one at home, obviously defense goes with you wherever you're at. So big time stuff there. Obviously, going to be ranked in the top 25. If they're not, some pollsters should be fired, because that would just be complete disrespect. You don't beat someone by 30 and not get yourself ranked. And then the last thing, they did this with their third string running back. So you're looking now without LJ Martin. You're looking without, I'm blanking on I think it's like Ropini. Sorry if I got that name wrong. It's second string. and this team could really, really be special. You still got Chase Roberts on the outside. So just kudos to BYU, kudos to their fan base. And I'm just happy for the program. And really, out of all the craziness this weekend, that was the one victory that was a complete butt whooping, for lack of better terms. And so moving forward here, Dane, here's where the craziness starts, and that is college football, why the sport is special. Can we recap the Colorado-Baylor game? Do we just talk about a Hail Mary? What do we take away? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the ending was wild. Took the Hail Mary, to force the OT. And then that was the fumble on the goal line to seal the game. The fans ran out on the field before it was officially over. Just a great game overall to watch. I mean, I had a lot of fun watching it, and Colorado didn't play that well. Really, probably didn't deserve to win. They really struggled with Sawyer Robinson, the quarterback for Baylor, scrambling a lot, and Baylor looked better than they did when I watched them play Utah. I think Baylor is better without DeQuan Finn at quarterback. They're using Sawyer Robinson. Um, and so Baylor played better than I was expecting. I thought Colorado would beat them pretty handily, and Colorado really struggled, but got the job done at the end. And that's all that matters, I guess. You get the win and you move on. First Big 12 game since 2010 for them, so they're back in the conference. They started off with the win, and it really helps Colorado's season moving forward. The trajectory of getting to 6 wins is a lot easier now, or more straightforward now, versus if they had lost that game. So really important victory for Colorado and Coach Prime and the direction of the program this season. And I expect them to take that momentum and sort of, push the pedal to the floor, kind of realize where they're at. It might be one of those victories where they kind of are humbled, maybe. You don't usually say that word a lot with Colorado, but when you get close victories like this, it really kind of tells you where you're at. You might think you're better than you are when you're not. And so maybe it's sort of like, I don't know, reality check. Because I really expected Colorado to beat Baylor by more than, an overtime victory. I thought they would win by, I know the spread was only 1.5, but man, I had a lot higher expectations for Colorado. And they didn't really meet them, but they got the win. And so that's all that matters. You move on to next week.
Yeah, I mean, and Colorado's completely underperforming. Dion, you talk all that shit. Like you're underperforming, and but the one thing I do want to say, I felt the refs. I'm a big proponent in not kind of calling out the refs, but I thought this one was completely overlooked. On the final drive of the game, Colorado got a clear first down, and the clock should have stopped, and they would have had enough time to put down a real drive, like a real drive without a Hail Mary. They called it short. They never reviewed it, and Colorado had to run like a sneak on 4th and 1. That ate up 20 or 30 seconds. That killed their drive and ultimately forced them into the Hail Mary situation. So I felt it was kind of just that Colorado at least got the chance to win the game in overtime. Big miss by the refs. I know we talked about the big pass interferences, like a big like mislay hit. That one was bad, and it was obvious and something that I felt should have not gone overlooked. They should have taken the time out to review that. Again, I know Dion talks a lot of crap. You still got to do your job and be a professional as the ref. I'm not saying there was anything like that. Again, I think I didn't get to see every play, so I'm assuming the officiating was fair and hopefully just a missed call. But I didn't like that. You got to do better, and you got to review it when the game's on the line. But again, what can you say? They sent the game to overtime on Hail Mary. My dad's not a Colorado fan. I don't even think he's a Dion fan. But he called me and was like, "Did you see that?" So you got to be happy for them, their fans. Oh, and one fan base I guess I did leave out is Colorado, because they stuck around. They could have left, and it was absolutely raucous when that play happened. Shedeur, I don't really know how he got the ball down the field on that. Seemed like they sent some pressure, kind of just rolled down and flung that thing. And then again, the phenomenal catch. So you're just looking at, for Colorado, like you said, it's humbling, but they just got to take the win and figure it out going forward. And Travis Hunter, Shadur might get a lot of hype. Shiloh might get a lot of hype. Dion might get a lot of hype. Obviously, Travis Hunter does too. He is too legit to be playing college football. I mean, he makes every big receiving play and then forces the fumble on the 1 yard line to win the game. That's unheard of. That's not like an interception. That's him now getting in the run game, the pass game, and on offense. I mean, this guy, I've never seen anything like this. Dion was just a little bit before my time. I've never seen a player like this. And honestly, without him, I don't even know if Colorado's even a good team. Like a pretty bad team without him. So yeah, kudos to Colorado. I mean, you won on a Hail Mary, celebrate in Boulder, and have a hell of a lot of fun. There's no other way to say it. You won on a freaking Hail Mary. Next game, a little bit more slower of a pace. We got Oklahoma State, Utah, and Dane. I'll let you take it away here in 1 second. I just want to throw out a couple stats, and then I know you probably got to see a little bit more of this game than I did. For Utah, you're looking at Isaac Wilson stepping in for Rising, a late scratch, 17 for 29, but he did move the ball for 207 yards, even with 2 interceptions. And I mean, that's important to be able to move the ball. There's a lot of starting quarterbacks in college football who can't even get more than 100 yards a game. So good to see him be able to move the ball, even with a couple mistakes. Micah Bernard, 25 carries, 182 yards. Plug and fill system. Wish there was a more original analogy. Whoever Utah puts in seems to do well. I'm pretty sure they went with a safety last year, running back, and they did well in Sione Vaki. So they continued this trend. Speaks volumes to their offensive line and the stability of the program. And then obviously you got Dorian Singer coming in, big transfer receiver, 7 receptions, 95 yards, and it feels like Utah is always a little bit kind of lacking explosiveness at the wide out. So getting a player like him, obviously not quite a Teta or still cannot say his name, Teta Ora McMillan at Arizona, or maybe one of the better receivers nationally. But Singer's a baller. Singer's a baller, just not the best player in the country. So with that, Dane, I know you saw more of the game, so I'll let you kind of talk about it from here.
Yeah, I think it was just a complete disaster for Oklahoma State. I mean, I guess you got to credit Utah and the defense really for taking advantage of the weaknesses on Oklahoma State's roster. Alan Bowman, the quarterback for the Pokes, is just inconsistent at times and struggles pretty badly. And the secondary for Utah really took advantage of that. Pretty much just stunted the offense completely. And Mike Gundy didn't start him to start the second half. So they're going with the backup quarterback, and he did even worse. The sun was a major factor. The weather in that game was just insane, I guess. Out there it was over 100 degrees. The humidity was something like 30%. So it was just really an abnormal game, I think. And once the sun went down, they were starting to get shadows on the field. That's when Oklahoma State started to play better. They actually scored 16 points in the final 6 minutes of the game to make it look close. But I mean, at one point, it was 22-3. I think with 7 minutes left in the game, off of a play action pass that Isaac Wilson just bombed down to Keithy, and he literally like walked into the end zone, and like most of the fans already had left Oklahoma State Stadium. So it was really a domination by Utah. It was a surprise for me because I was expecting Oklahoma State to win. I really viewed the Big 12 as sort of running through Stillwater. Oklahoma State, just the results speak for themselves over the last 10 years in the Big 12. Once Texas and Oklahoma left, I felt like Oklahoma State was the main team there in that league. And so I viewed the perspective of that league through Oklahoma State. And now that they've lost to Utah, at least for me, I have to re-examine the Big 12, and now it needs to be viewed through the lens of Utah, which is easy for us since we've been covering them for so long. But I didn't think it would happen this way. And so Utah doing that with a backup quarterback, a true freshman quarterback that has struggled at times against non-power conference defenses, went in there and beat Oklahoma State and Stillwater. I think that was the first time the Pokes had lost to an AP Top 25 team at home in the last 7 games. They were like 6-0 or 7-0 against ranked teams, and a backup true freshman quarterback went in there and won. So that tells you a lot about Oklahoma State's defense. The TV was showing some of the stats. It's very, very bad. It is not a good defense whatsoever. And if you have a good secondary and a good front seven that can get pressure um, on their line and on their quarterback, they kind of fall apart. So Oklahoma State's not as good as I thought they were. Utah is better than I thought they were. And yeah, the Big 12 runs through Salt Lake City. So it's all viewed through that lens now moving forward.
Yeah, and the state of Utah is going to like me today. I mean, all I got to say is Kyle Whittingham is the best coach in college football, and he has been for the last 10, 15 years. That includes Nick Saban. That includes whoever else has won a bunch of national championships. These guys are doing it with the top 5-star recruits. And the last 5-star recruit, I mean, I'm sure they got someone this year. But the last major recruit I remember going to Utah is Clark Phillips, who obviously came in and killed it. So you're looking at a guy who's continuously doing it with not lesser players. I mean, these are highly recruited players. They're very talented, but not the elite that a SC or a Michigan or Ohio State's going to do on a regular basis. And he continues to win. To go into Stillwater with your backup quarterback and get a W is ridiculous. It's not real. And he not only did it, he did it in easy fashion. Kyle Whittingham is so many, like, he's just years ahead of everyone. His system's in place. He's a phenomenal coach. You don't hear a lot about him. He's a family man. I know in this day and age, the media wants to, again, all love the Dion. He seems like a phenomenal father, but like it seems like the media wants to just showcase the guys who talk crap and get the attention and do this and do that. Well, what about the teams that win and be quiet and promote family and like hardworking values? Because that's what it feels like Kyle Whittingham does. That should be the top story in Sports Center every night. I feel so. Shouts to Kyle Whittingham again getting it done. And when Cam Rising comes back, I mean, who's even to know how good this team can really be at this point? I'm with you, Dane. I did pick Utah, but that's because I thought Cam Rising was playing. If the backup was starting, if Wilson was starting, I 100% would have went with the Pokes. And then a quick question before we shift games: how does Pokes come from Cowboys? Can someone explain that to me?
I actually asked somebody about it, and I can't remember exactly the reason. It's like a shorthand term for a cowboy. I actually asked somebody about it, but I can't remember right off the top of my head. So it has something to do with a cowboy, and yeah, that's all I can remember.
Deal. No, shorthand term for cowboy works. It gives me some context.
I think it's a cowboy that like corrals cattle. I don't know. I'll have to look. I'll tell you after the show.
I like it. I like it. And then the next game I'm going to talk about here, Wazoo, San Jose State. And this is where y'all have been following me for a while. I went to WSU. This is where I got to call out my fan base. You can get mad at me. You can get mad at me. I do my best to be objective. I know that's not a thing in journalism anymore, but like that's how I was trained at WSU. So WSU, here comes my objective journalism. You beat Texas Tech at home. You beat UW in the Apple Cup on a fourth goal stop, and you fans can barely show up for this game against an undefeated San Jose State team. There was fans there. I mean, there was a decent sized crowd. That should be sold out like BYU. Go Cougs, go Cougs. We don't show up to games. You sit there hating on the Huskies. Show up to games. I went to many basketball games at WSU where I was sitting in the front row, not because I paid money, but because no one was there. No one. Dane, someone you may be familiar with, Alonzo Trier. I talked so much crap to him when he was a freshman at Arizona. Yeah, that was me, Trier. I know you remember because I got in your head. You had a little bit of a bad game. Per usual, Arizona was way better, and his teammates picked him up and beat us by like 30 in the end. But yeah, Trier, that was me if you're listening, because I know you remember me. You're a freshman. So anyway, let's stay on page here though. WSU, show up for games. That was an undefeated San Jose State team. We were undefeated. We've beaten 2 Power 4, Power 5 conference teams, and the crowd wasn't very loud. You can't really blame the players for almost blowing it. They're probably half hungover from the Apple Cup, as they rightfully should be, and they probably expected their students to maybe pick them up a little bit. But no, instead we have a mid-tier environment. It's not very loud. So WSU fans, show up for the games. Spokane is a 2-hour drive from Pullman, 90 minutes if you're going really fast. The game started at 7. A lot of people could have driven down to the game. There's the Tri-Cities are over there. A lot of Cougs over there. 2, 3, that drive might be a little longer. Could have shown up. A lot of Seattle people who have maybe a little bit extra money. You could have taken a Friday off. You could have went and supported a 3-0 game, 2 3-0 teams. Didn't do it. Stadium wasn't very loud. Luckily, John Mateer is literally Kobe RP, but he's literally like proving to be one of the greatest things that's ever happened on the Palouse. I mean, in regards to the actual game, it was literally one of the craziest games I've ever watched. To recap it in this show just wouldn't do it justice. But the one little snippet I guess I can give is basically an extra point was missed by Dean Janikowski, who's WSU's kicker, to kind of keep him down by 1 point with 5 minutes left. This is after the Cougs made like a 14-point comeback, crazy comeback. And then to tie the game, I guess I'll throw in one more caveat because San Jose State quarterback Emmett Brown is a baller. And as much as I was hating on the WSU fans, I still love the community. I want to say that. I love all you guys. So be mad at me, but I still going to support you in the end. But hopping over to San Jose State really quick, they are for real. Emmett Brown and Nick Nash are nasty. I think there was a little bit of Emmett Brown recognizing his former team and knowing exactly where to go and to knowing every person's strength and weakness. I think that did play in a little bit. But this guy was an absolute baller. WSU looked like they might take the game after that big comeback. On a 4th and 10, Emmett Brown rolled out and made a phenomenal pass. It was someone different than Nash to receiver. Caught the ball and just a perfect throw. Had Mateer not on the next drive, essentially got a 25-yard pass and a 9-yard run to set up a 52-yard field goal. This game's over. So just too much to recap. One of the craziest games I've ever seen, and just from the Cougar perspective, I mean, we thought we were going to Coug it again, and I don't even want to call it Coug it. I just think San Jose State is a legitimate team. That team, they gave us everything and more, and probably should have walked out of there with a victory, to be quite frank. They look like the better team. But again, kudos to Mateer for showing heart, for making every big play when it matters. Kudos to a kicker who shanked an extra point with 5 minutes left to extend the game with the 52-yard field goal. That is college football at its finest. Every Coug knew that kick was missing. It somehow went through. So for bottom line, WSU, we're 4-0. 4-0, I don't even really – I can't comprehend it. You can still see I'm still kind of trying to process what I watched on Friday night from that game. But the Cougars are 4-0 and still America's team and still have a chance to do some really cool things going forward. But again, I just want to make sure to shout out San Jose State one more time. This is a team that can now legitimately, I don't want to say win the Mountain West, but should be a player in the Mountain West. I would love to see them against, Boise State, UNLV, those type of squads. And just going forward, the Spartans deserve a lot of credit. I'm going to get closer on his name this week. Probably still wrong. Ken Niumatalolo, still probably a little off. Phenomenal coach. Jake Dicker admitted he got outcoached. And so, yeah, just good game for San Jose State and for the Cougs. They should be very, very fortunate they won. You got anything you want to add here?
It's a win. Win's a win. Not quite sure how good Wazoo is yet. I know you're 4-0, but I don't think an overtime game against San Jose State in Pullman is a confidence booster for the reputation. But they're 4-0, so you take the wins as they come and you move on to the next one. I think for the positioning in the playoff, they're in a good spot. I guess they're still considered one of the group of 5 teams or whatever that doesn't get one of those automatic bids. So, or that does get one of the automatic bids if you're the top ranked non-power conference team. So the ability to make the playoff is there. And so you just keep winning. Doesn't matter if you win every game from here on out by 1 point in overtime. Win's a win. You take the win as they come and you move on to the next.
Yeah, and exactly. And I always got to start off with the negativity because I really was disappointed by the crowd size. Again, still love the Go Cougs, still love the small town opening the doors for each other, still love living in Seattle. And literally every time you're wearing something WSU, someone will stop you and acknowledge it. So I do love that culture. I just think we could show up for games. But as Dane said, it is a win. And particularly, these are the games that WSU historically has lost, whether it's UW, whether it's San Jose State. It was written like usual. Here we go. We're gonna Coug it, and somehow they didn't. So hate to shout out our own brand, but I like to tweet I saw from our from SuperWest Sports saying this is a team of destiny. This could be a team of destiny. It really feels that way so far. There's no reason why this team isn't 3-1 right now. But I look at the standings; they're 4-0. So kudos to those Cougs for finding a way. John Mateer again, just he could have given up with 25 seconds down three, but somehow made an NFL caliber drive and in two plays set up a 52-yard field goal. So that can't be understated. Love all my Cougs, trying to get some good graces back, and just again happy for the win. But we cover a bunch more teams here, and one final shout out to San Jose State and Emmett Brown. That team, I want to see them going forward. I want to see them going forward. Next game, Dane spent probably too much time on WSU. Do you want to talk about Stanford-Syracuse, or you want to talk about something a little bit different?
You can talk about Stanford. I'll talk about Cal. So Cal played on the road against Florida State, battled them to the end. Ended up falling short. Didn't score an offensive touchdown. I think it was all field goals. You know, that was the game, one of those games during the preseason that we didn't think Cal would win. We talked about Cal beating Auburn, so that one wasn't as much as a surprise. I don't think anybody during the preseason would have predicted Cal to beat Florida State. So it's one of those games that they weren't really expected to win, and they still played them close. They almost had a chance to get the win. So for the Cal trajectory, for the momentum of the season, I think they're fine. You shake this one off. You go back home. You focus on the remaining games. The game against Miami is going to be tough. A road game against Pitt is going to be difficult. And then, you just kind of take it game by game. You don't let this one affect the momentum or the confidence level in the program. It's a road game against Florida State that you lost by 5. Shake it off and move on. And, it is what it is. You wanted to win that one because you had high hopes about what the season could be. But man, I don't think anybody realistically was thinking that Cal would have beat Florida State during the offseason. And they're certainly at 3-1 are overperforming, I think, a lot of people's expectations. So you just move on from that game, burn the tape, don't think about it. And I think Cal will be fine moving forward.
Yeah, and a team or a man or a woman or a human who has nothing to lose is very dangerous. And Florida State had absolutely nothing to lose. They were playing for their lives, their jobs. Norvell was playing for his job. DJU was playing for his job. Everyone was playing for their job. I actually felt like, and I think you pretty much broke it down, but I guess the one or two things I'll add is I felt like Cal was actually the better team, but Florida State was basically in a effort mode and just ran a bunch of all-out blitzes at the end, and they got there. And again, Fernando Mendoza is truly I think he's still overlooked nationally. There was a 3rd and 12 he picked up on the final drive. I know they came up short. It might have been like 3rd and 14. There's also like a 4th and 11, 4th and 12 that he picked up, one with his feet and one with his legs. And he's an absolute playmaker. He is an absolute playmaker. And I'm gonna call it here first. Maybe I should do a little more research, and maybe I won't actually pick it. But my gut is saying that Cal beats Miami. I think that Florida State team, facing an 0-3 Florida State team, that was just a tough one. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with. I'm thinking Cal might be able to get Miami. Hopping over to Stanford, another team I've kind of hated on over the past couple of years, but what's fair is fair. Objectively speaking, Ashton Daniels has improved, and he's improved a lot. Let me pull up his stats here really quick. 23 for, I guess the stats don't look as good, but watching the game, he actually made some big time throws. It was 23 for 38, 178 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Chris Davis hopped in on the ground, had a 9 carries, 79 yards. And really the story of the game, though, is Alec Aominar. he basically made every big play when needed, including like a fourth down in the fourth quarter that set up the game-winning field goal. And really for Stanford, this is a big win. Liking what I'm seeing out of Daniels in terms of improvement. I don't think he's elite yet. Again, the stats speak for themselves: less than 200 yards, less than 2 touchdowns. But bottom line, going to ACC territory, get a win against an undefeated Q's team. A decently passionate crowd. Showed a little bit of love, a little bit of noise, and found a way to get it done. Found a way to pick up a big fourth down and trusted his guy. And Elake Minar is going to be an NFL player. He had a crazy one-handed turning catch in the first half. Had the kind of basically the play to set the field goal on a fourth down, and then shouts to Stanford's kicker, who absolutely was like 4 for 4. Blanking on his name right here, but Cardi's gone, but filled the roles of Cardi pretty well. Came in and hit every big kick, and Stanford utilized their special teams. They played a little bit old school defense and did just enough to set their kicker to win a game, and that's exactly what they did. I got that one wrong, but kudos to the Cardinal. I've not really thought they've been too good, but that win speaks for itself. So, got nothing to add there. And then, any other games you want to talk about, Dane? I know we didn't just any other kind of final thoughts or games?
No, not really. I think the Big 12 was a lot of fun to watch. Teams might not be the best, like comparable to the top of maybe the Big 10 and the top of the SEC. But man, is the Big 12 a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I watched Cincinnati crush Houston. I didn't catch Iowa State play Arkansas State. I did watch Texas Tech beat Arizona State. Sort of stunted the Sun Devils' momentum. Did not catch any of the SMU just destroying TCU. But I did watch part of West Virginia and Kansas. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun for me to watch the Big 12. I'm glad I get to cover this new conference and still learning about it and honing in the microscope, the lens that I view it through. And yeah, it was a huge weekend with Utah beating Oklahoma State. Man, that just changes the dynamic. It forces me to change my perspective and re-examine the whole league, really. So.
Yeah, and I guess you spurred one final thought for me. In regards to that ASU Texas Tech game, ASU showed their heads up high. When WSU beat Tech early in the season, it was without Taj Brooks, who's their all-conference first-team running back. Tech is an entirely different team with him in the lineup. That's a good team with him in the lineup. And so ASU may have not quite realized how good that team is. I think their quarterback, like Bayron Morton over there at Tech, kind of able to find his rhythm a little bit more with the help of Brooks. And just not a bad loss there. I know Sun Devils would obviously like to be 4-0, but that loss is not a bad loss. Going into Lubbock and losing is, or going into Lubbock and grabbing a win is never guaranteed. So, yeah, I think kind of the final thoughts. Obviously, the Beavers knocked off Purdue. I'm not going to recap that one. And then if this spurs anything for you, Dane, let me know. I just gotta say this is probably one of the funnest weekends of college football I've watched in a long time. It started with Stanford coming down to game-winning field goal. Obviously, it's a little funner because WSU was able to knock off San Jose State and instant classic. You follow that up with USC-Michigan coming down to a 4th and goal. You follow that up with a Hail Mary Colorado-Baylor game. And one thing I forgot to mention, in the BYU game, this is probably too late, but hell, it might get some Cougar love, is they had a muffed punt return touchdown to kind of help break that game open. Kid by the name of Parker Kingston, I believe, off the top of my head. So just if you don't love this sport, if you think the NFL is a little bit cleaner, I get it. The NFL is the highest level, but this weekend was truly college football at its best. A lot of passionate fan bases, a lot of fun, and a lot of just weird college football plays. Again, including offensive lineman running downfield and the USC running back ripping the ball out of his arms. So just a lot of fun watching college football. That spur anything for you, Dane, or you just want to get the hell out of here?
Nah, I think I got it. I got my spiel in about the Big 12. The ACC is still wide open too. I like watching Cal and Stanford, so it's been fun so far. I'm waiting for the next games. Hopefully, they come as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And with that, this has been Super West on Sundays. We will be back next Sunday. So thank you for tuning in as always. Like and subscribe, y'all. We all want to be like multi-millionaires out here. So start my journey, guys. Start my journey. Dane might be a billionaire already. I'm not sure. So help him get to 2 billion, guys. No, but in all seriousness, like and subscribe. But more importantly, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. This has been Super West on Sundays. For Dane, I'm Nick, and deuces.